Welcome, welcome, welcome. 6-4 notes. Today we are going to learn how to solve two-step equations. So just a little bit more advanced than the one-step equations. And then also how to check our answer again for these two-step equations. So our launch. A company charges $2 for each balloon and an arrangement, and then also a $3 delivery fee. So you have a total of $9 to spend. This equation, 2x plus 3, equals 9, where x is the number of balloons. This kind of represents our situation. So in order to solve how many balloons you need, you're going to work backwards to solve for this equation. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with the amount of money that we have to spend. So the first thing we have is our $9, and I have that much to spend. Okay, then if you take a look right up here, I'm going to subtract out my delivery fee. So it costs $3 just to deliver them. So I know that I have to pay that much, meaning that I have a total of $6 left over once I take out that $3 for the delivery fee. And then since each balloon is $2, I'm going to then divide by 2 in order to figure out how many balloons I need. So $6 divided by 2, I end up with a total of 3 balloons, meaning that down below I can purchase 3 balloons. So notice that we kind of worked backwards in this case in order to solve out for x. So we're going to kind of use the same idea for when we're actually solving out two-step equations. So here's our connect. So to solve these two-step equations, we must work the order of operations backwards. So remember, our first order of operations is always parentheses, then exponents, and then step number 3 is to multiply and divide, always from the left to the right. And then our last step, step 4, is to add or subtract from the left to the right. So we are going to go backwards. So I'm going to start at step 4, when really for solving equations, this is actually step 1. So what we are going to do first is to undo the addition or subtraction. So I'm just going to abbreviate addition or subtraction. So you're always going to add or subtract first, depending on what you have in your problem. So then once you're done with the addition or the subtraction, then we're going to move on to step number 2, which is to undo the multiplication or division. So order of operations backwards. So we're going to start with add, subtract, then multiply, divide, and then exponents, and then parentheses. But a lot of that we're not going to see right away. So for solving two-step equations, we're going to do the same thing as we did for one-step equations. So whenever you see your equal sign, I always start by drawing that line now. Do you have to draw this line down the equal sign? No, but I just like being able to see what I need to do to one side. That way I can also do it on the next side. So if I take a look at what I have near my variable, so always find your variable first, and then I even tell my children to cover up the other side of the equal sign. So I'm covering up the 23. So I look and I see I have 3x plus 2. So like we said up above, our step number 1 is to add or subtract first. So because there's a plus 2, I see that plus sign, I'm going to do the opposite of that plus sign. So what we learned from one-step equations is the opposite of adding 2 is to subtract 2. And since I've done it on that side, I'm also going to do it over here on the right side, and I'm going to draw my long line so that I see what I have left. So I had 3x, then I had a positive 2, but then I took that 2 away. So all I have now is just 3x on this left side. And then I had 23, and I took 2 away for a total of 21. And then our last step, now it's just down to a one-step equation rather than 2. To get x by itself, I know that there is a multiplication sign in between the two, so I'm going to divide both sides by that 3, not by 21. I'm going to divide by 3, and I'm going to show this work. Remember how key this work is. You must show what you're doing on both sides of the equation. When I divide by 3, I end up with x equals, and then 21 divided by 3 gives us the number 7. Good, and then right below, I'm just going to do a little quick check. I just gave you a small amount of space for that. So you have 3 times when I plug in 7, and then plus 2 equals 23. So now I'm going to use just the normal order of operations. So on the left side, we have 3 times 7, and then plus 2. So I know I'm going to multiply first. So 3 times 7 gives us 21. Plus 2, and I know that 21 plus 2 equals 23, so 23 equals 23, and this definitely checks out. All right, moving right along to the next one. Now, if you need to pause the video and go back to number 1 to maybe get the correct work, make sure that you're doing that. This is your notes, okay? You are testing out and you are showing all the work on your notes. That way, when we come to our problems, it just makes our notes just a little bit easier. First thing we're going to do for this problem, again, draw our line down the equal sign. On the left side, we see negative 2y minus 7 and then equals 3. So I cover up the side that doesn't have the variable on it. I know that I have negative 2y and a minus 7. So a lot of times, actually, when I was growing up, I always thought about touching the variable or touching that coefficient that's attached to the variable last. So always, always, always get rid of the constant first. So if you would like to, on step 1 up above, especially if you are listening to this, well, first I'm going to add 7 to both sides so that we can see that opposite of 7. But up above on step number 1, under the words undo, add, and subtract, I want you to write the constant. So just right below that word at some point, I want you to write constant somewhere in that area, C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T, constant. Then I'm going to draw my long line. So just like I said, if you're listening, please write the word constant, because that's what I want you to get rid of first, is get rid of that constant, not the coefficient, the constant. So if you are listening to this, please make sure that you have that written somewhere up near step number 1. So all I have left on this left side, when I do the opposite of minus 7, because that's our constant, I now have negative 2y equals, I have 3, I'm adding 7, so now I have 10. Then to get that y all by itself, I know that multiplication is in between the two, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. So my final answer here is y equals, when I have 10 divided by negative 2, I know that my final answer is negative 5. And so just again, before we move on to the check, a quick reminder, if you are listening to what I'm saying right there where it says undo the plus or the minus, at some point near that step number 1, I want you to go ahead and write the word constant is what I'm looking for. All I'm doing right now is plugging in for that check. Notice that all I did was just plug it into our original problem. So instead of using y, I'm replacing it with negative 5. So then order of operations, the correct way, negative 2 times negative 5 gives us 10. Take away 7 is indeed a positive 3. All right, so now we're going to look at question 3. So again, I find the side that has the variable on it. I draw my line down the center. And again, always get rid of your constant first. So as 4 the constant, is 1/5 the constant. Hopefully we remember back to chapter 5 in that vocabulary. 4 is the constant. And then I always look at the operation before our constant. So this is a positive 4. Seeing as that's a positive 4, I am going to subtract 4, not 5, sorry about that, minus 4 on both sides, draw my long line. So then on the left side, all I have left is 1/5 m, and that equals, and then if I have negative 1, and I'm taking away 4 more, that's like I'm adding the two negatives together, because notice they're both negative. So they're the same signs, add them and keep the sign, so I'd have 5, and it's still very negative. Okay, and then we've also seen now, with our rational solving, that 6-3 notes, I know exactly what to do instead of dividing by a fraction on both sides, because I know it's 1/5 times m, right? And the opposite of dividing by a fraction is actually multiplying by the reciprocal. I'm going to get rid of that fraction 1/5, and instead I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, because then it's like I can cross simplify everything. So all I have left is m equals, and then over here on the right side I have negative 5 times 5 over 1, which is like negative 5 over 1, but I know that if it's both of these fractions are just over 1, I can essentially just get rid of them. So it's really just negative 5 times 5, which gives us a final answer of negative 25. And then I'm going to box it in, and again, have a quick check. So down below, I'm going to plug it in. I have 4 plus 1/5 times, I'm going to replace it with negative 25. And that whole thing equals, I believe it's a negative 1. Yeah. So then right here, I'm going to show this work off to the side because I know I need to multiply first. So if I have 1/5 times negative 25, that's like negative 25 over 1. You can either multiply straight across or cross simplify. My final answer there is negative 5. So 4 plus a negative 5 equals negative 1. This definitely checks out. All right, now we're going to go down here to number 4. So again, I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign, get rid of my constant first. So my constant is a positive 7 because it's closest to that variable on that side. So again, cover up the other side of your equation so that you don't think that you want to do the opposite of the negative 2. I want to do the opposite of the constant that is closest to our variable on the same side of the equal sign. So because it's a plus 7, I want to subtract 7 both sides. Draw my long line. Remember, this work is key. You must show me this. So negative 7 and a negative 2, same signs, add and keep. So I have 9. I'm going to keep it negative, equals n over 3. And then right here, the opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3 on both sides. Final answer is negative 27 equals n, and I'm done, right? Hopefully you're saying no, either out loud or to yourself, because you must have that n on the left side of your equal sign, so n equals negative 27. For time purposes, I'm not actually going to check these ones. You can go ahead as you try for checking, go ahead and plug them in and make sure that it makes sense and make sure that we have the right answer. This is also what your teachers are going to be checking to see if you are doing these 4, 5, and 6 checks, because if you are listening, you must show those checks. So now the 2 listening clues are by step 1 up above, you must write the word constant, and then for 4, 5, and 6, you must check your equation. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on this one. Draw our line. Some of you are probably working ahead, which is fine, but I'm going to also show you this work. The opposite of that constant that's closest to our variable on the same side of the equal sign. I'm going to add 7 both sides. I now have 4x equals, when I had negative 4, and I'm adding 7, they're different signs because one's negative, one's positive. I'm going to subtract them, so I get 4, and then I keep the larger, and the larger number is negative. Final answer, when I divide both sides by 4, I end up with x equals, when I have a negative 4 divided by 4, I end up with a negative 1. And again, if you're listening, make sure that you're checking 4, 5, and 6 to make sure that you have the correct answer and that you are showing that you are listening to what it is that I'm saying right now. So again, same thing. Get rid of the constant on the same side of the equal sign as the variable. My constant is a negative 2, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I now have just whatever's left over, so 2/3 x equals, if I had 10, I'm adding 2, I now have 12. And then notice here, I'm multiplying those two things, but we don't divide by a fraction. So whenever you see a fraction times a variable, always multiply by the reciprocal. That's what we learned about in our 6-3 notes. Multiply by the reciprocal. Essentially why we do that is to cross simplify everything over here. So all I have left is x. And then equals 12 times 3 over 2. I'm going to do that as 12 over 1. I am also going to just multiply straight across to show you that we can still get the same answer. You would get 36 over 2. But make sure that we always simplify. So x equals, when I divide those two things out, I end up with 18. Again, make sure that you are showing that check on 4, 5, and 6 if you are listening. So let's go ahead and turn over our notes, please. Alrighty, so back here, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and I want you to work out 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make sure that you're showing the check off to that side. If you do not have enough space, feel free to use anything below, but go ahead and pause and then check back once you have completed all 4 of these questions on your own. Alrighty, so hopefully you paused the video and checked or tried to work out each one of these. I'm going to just quickly show you each one. Feel free to pause if you need to. And then here's question number 2 so that you can maybe check your work and check the answer that you have. That's n equals negative 12. Here's the next one, number 3. Ends up being h equals 7. If you got that wrong answer, please pause and check my work compared to yours. And then the very last one, number 4, should be x equals negative 24. All right, so if you are listening again, I want you to put how many you got correct on the first try down at the lower right-hand corner, whether you got 1, 2, 3, or 4 right. If you got however many you got right, I want you to put that number and then circle it down at the bottom right-hand corner of just these notes right here, near that check for number 4. Good luck on your problems tomorrow.